Hello, everybody. How is it going? I'm Alejandro, the CGI nerd, and I am going to continue working on my little monster characters that I started sketching a little while ago. So I think it was a couple days ago now. Um, Oops, that disappeared. The little sketches that I did over here, they were just kind of like basic characters that I was just blocking in. And then a little bit earlier today, I just spent some time and came up with a little bit cleaner drawing so I have a better idea on what I'm actually going to be modeling. And then I am going to go into the 3D scene and I am going to start building out everything that I need to build out. So I'm going to minimize this because I don't need that anymore. And then I am going to move this over onto my other monitor so that way I can look at it as I'm modeling for reference. And then we'll get started with the modeling. I have a sphere in here. It is just 8x8 units. This is not the viewport that I want. That's what I want to see. There we go. That looks a little bit cleaner. All right, so I have an 8x8 sphere. I like to use 8x8. The reason for that is that we look at it from the top, you can see that it is centered. You have an edge centered on the front and back and the side to side. So if we were to take this and increase it, you can see that depending on the numbers that you have, they will not line up perfectly on the axis lines. So that is why I start off with 8x8 because right at the center I have a line on each one of the axes, and it makes it easier for me to kind of visualize and think about the character as I'm modeling. I could bring this into a image plane. Might as well do that. I do have it over on the window next to me, but let's bring it in to an image plane so that way you guys can see what that might look like. So I want to go to select camera, image plane, import image, and it popped up on my other window. I go to the desktop. I have Penny Monster. There we go. So I have that there. I can adjust some of the settings with this image plane. So usually I like to adjust the alpha a little bit so that way I can see the environment a little bit better. And then I can size it a little bit more. So maybe, oops, make it a little bit smaller. And then the other thing is that, actually I'll just keep it there because this is just for reference, and then I'll put it back there. I'm not really keeping track of the scale right now, so I don't have to worry. I can scale it like after I model it. If I'm going to move it kind of up, and I'm not trying to match the design 100% right away, but I'm just wanting to have it there for reference so that I can see if I am actually kind of on or if I am way off of what I'm trying to do. When I'm blocking in a character, I do, I got chats. Let me open up a different window because the chat that I'm looking at is super tiny. How do I look at the chat? I have the chat there. Let me split it off onto a pop-up chat. There we go. Howdy. So we have Superknot99, hello. Budget Bushcraft, hello. Clint Moore, hello. Crypt6. A lot of people. It's Clint Raid. That's why I got so many people. Awesome. Hello, everybody. So I am spending some time today and modeling out this little character. It's a short that I'm working on for Penny. So, gonna go and create his legs, or her legs. I'm gonna use cylinders, and just like before, I want it to be 8 segments around. So I'm gonna limit that there. And then kind of when I place it over here, I know that it's going to go down to the grid, but it's going to be quite a bit smaller at the base, and it'll come out to be wider by the feet. I'm going to go into my vertex mode, pull this up, and then pull it down. And then I can push her leg in object mode back over to the side. Get the leg a little bit like that, and typically with characters like this, and you can see the way I drew it, the legs kind of come out a little bit more. Not just straight down, but it's kind of a little bit staggered a little bit. Heading back, Clint. Have a good day. Thank you so much for the raid. It was really awesome. And when I have this character here, I have it staggered. Eventually, what I'm going to end up doing with all the elements on one side is duplicate it and then mirror it over to the other side. So that I have it kind of like that. But I'm going to do that at the very end with the whole character once I get the blocked in shape. So I have the kind of leg there, and then maybe I'll use a box for now for the foot part of the character. And again, with the character, when I'm making the foot, I'm going to make it not coming straight out, but kind of slightly off axis. It will actually make it slightly more difficult for rigging, but it will be worth it to kind of have a more natural topology on the character in the end. See. Cool. Okay, so I need to create a cube, and then the cube is going to be repositioned. Oops, what did I do there? Oh, I selected the image plane on accident. So to get that off-axis look for the foot, what I'm going to start off by doing is bringing down the foot like that and make it straight first, and make it look the way I want it to look straight. And then I'll rotate it afterwards. And it doesn't have to be perfect yet, it just has to kind of be close enough because I am just blocking everything in. Then I can rotate it. I get that little bit of an offset on the leg that will make it more natural. Excuse me. Okay, so now what I want to do is start blocking in the arms for the character. And I'm going to kind of do a similar thing and use a cylinder for the arms coming from the side. This character has really thin arms until it comes to the hands, and then they got like abnormally large hands. So I'm still going to probably just duplicate that arm, or the leg, sorry, not the arm. Kind of push it there, but then scale it all down so that way it's kind of more of a thin arm. And then let's kind of look like at what we got here. And then when you're modeling a character, you guys can do it with the arms kind of down or in a T pose, depending on what you're doing. Right now, my concept art has the arms down, so what I'm going to actually do is kind of get it positioned down first, and then get the proportions the way I want them. And now I can rotate it out into T-pose. There we go. So I got the arm, and then I'll block in the hand in a moment. But that's the little arm there. And for the hand, for right now, I'm just going to block in the palm, and I'm going to do that with a cube. And let me get the character about the size of the character here. And then with this cube, I just want to first place it and size it so that way it ends up being about the size of the hand that we're going to need. Obviously, it's going to be rounded off a bit, but that's kind of close enough. So then I can get it over here, and then when I add more details for the hand, I can actually add the fingers and stuff like that, but I want to mostly have the big shape of the hand. And you can see that it kind of tapers as it goes down, but the big part of the taper is really towards the end, but it's almost like a teardrop shape. So let's kind of do that so that we have a bit of the tapering. And then I will extrude this a little bit and taper it even more, just so I have about where it will connect to the hand here, or the arm, sorry. One of the things with the character that I don't like with starting off with the sphere is that we have all these triangles that come into the top and on the bottom here. So I actually like to go in and get rid of all these triangles. I'll clean it up. Excuse me. There we go. So I've cleaned up the top and the bottom, and then to connect everything, what I end up doing is doing a you can do a bridge, and we're gonna go into edge mode. So we're gonna bridge from here to here, and with divisions, we'll just add 1. And once we've done that, we're gonna do the same thing over here. Repeat it, and then divisions, bring that up to 1. Even though I have the two, actually, probably because it's a bridge, the easier way would be, so that way I don't have to merge everything together, is to take this side and this side, then bridge it together that way. And then here, we can add the 1 division. And once I do that, I can actually take this and start rounding it off a little bit. And these points here, I will merge. There's merge. And I have a cleaner top with the quads rather than triangles. And I mean, all of this is going to be hidden with hair anyways, so it's not super important, but I just like quads over triangles. So I could do that same thing on the bottom, but probably the faster thing to do would be to delete the bottom half, and then once we have that deleted, we can take it and scale it negative in the y. We get the other half, and that should be clean already. Gonna take both of these halves of the body and combine them, so that way they're one object, and then selecting all the middle vertices here, go in and do a merge. With the merge, I'm going to keep the threshold really low, and that should work because they're right on top of each other. Just to double check, we can push 3, and we shouldn't see any weird edges when we do the smooth preview there, because they all merged fine. So as long as we see that, we are good. So now we need to look at doing the getting the legs connected to the rest of the body. And then after that, we'll start working on the proportions a little bit more. What I am going to do, let's look at it in Wireframe. I have all these triangles in here, and we don't need them anymore because we're going to merge the end of the cylinder onto the rest of the object. So I'm just going to get rid of them by deleting them. And then I can select all of these spaces, extrude them in, and by extruding them in, we basically are creating a set of faces where it is closer to the size of the arm, so that way I can more easily connect everything. And then I'm going to be deleting all those faces. If we look at it here, I can round it off a little bit, but we count the edges here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is how we built this shape over here. It was 8 segments big, so that is perfect for what we need. We can connect these really easily now. With this edge here, I'm going to move it out a little bit so that I can connect it a little bit easier. And before I connect it, I want to start rounding this off. So what I like to do is just select the corner vertices, scale them in a bit, and then that gives us the start of a more round shape. And then I can, there we go. Take this and round it out, and that looks a lot better for what I need. Then I can go in edge mode, select both of the open sections, and I am going to bridge. And it does not bridge because it is not part of the same object, so I have to select both of the objects, combine them, and then go to edge mode, select all of the edges, mesh, and edit mesh, bridge. There we go. And with the divisions, I can maybe add one more division. So that way we have a little bit of area here where we can start modeling some of the details later on. So on this side with the hand, we can do something very similar. So I need to delete this face here. I've already deleted the inside of this one. We can see that there, where there's no triangles anymore. And then I'm going to use the mesh tools, insert edge loop tool, and I'll do a loop around the side and then a loop around the top, and that should give us the 8 segments to connect both of the halves. And they are not combined yet, so let's go in and go to mesh, combine, and then we can do a bridge. Bridge, there we go. And that looked like it did it correctly, and I will add one more division as well. Maybe that's too much because I already added a extrusion over here. I don't want to get too much detail too quickly. I just want enough so that way I can get the major shapes that I need built in. Okay, so where'd my window go? There we go. We have that connected there. Now we can look at connecting the leg to the body. And with the leg, we don't want both of the legs to match up exactly right in the center where they come into a point. There's actually a little bit of space between the legs, so we want to make sure that we preserve that. So I'm going to take these faces right at the bottom and scale it down a bit so that it's more proportional to what I need. And now I can work with these faces here, just like before. I did an accidental extrude there. Okay, cool. I want to do a extrude. There we go. Bring it down, and then I can reposition this a little bit and delete the faces. Gonna round this out a little bit before I combine everything. And then maybe pull this down a little bit so it's easier to connect. And looking at this, the hole is a little bit further off to the side than I want. So let me see if I put the character here. Looking at it, the leg does need to be more in than where the hole is. So the leg is more positioned right where the hole here is not. So let's adjust that. And if you double click an edge on a edge loop, it will actually select the whole edge loop. So that's why when I go into edge mode here, I double click on it and it will actually select the whole edge for me. There we go. That looks a lot better. If I select this, I still have the faces on top. So let's delete those so that way we can bridge it. In order to bridge, we have to take both of the geometry that we have here and we need to combine it. So I'm going to go to combine. And then now that we have it combined, I can select the edges where we're going to connect everything and do a bridge. Edit mesh, bridge. There you go. And then on this one, I do want to add another segment. There we go. So we kind of get it to about the scale that I am looking at. That looks much better than it did a moment ago. And like I said, this concept art isn't like set up to be an actual image plane or anything. I just have it there so that I can reference it and make sure that the proportions are generally right. So I want to connect the foot to the leg. Let's extend this a little bit further back. I'm going to do a edge loop so that way I kind of limit where the polygons that we are going to be creating is going to go out keep it a little bit more balanced. So we're going to add an edge loop there and an edge loop here. And now if we delete the whole top here, these 4 faces, we get 8 edges the way we did on top. And looking at this here, I'd probably want to kind of shape it a little bit better than what I have right now. And here, because we are kind of offset a little bit, I'm actually going to select all of these and twist it so that way the front of the leg that is happening here is still the part that goes to the center of the leg here. So that way the topology flows the way we need it. Oh, good night, Michael. Have a good night. I hope you have a good night. I'll be on here probably, I don't know, another 20 minutes or so that I can block in, maybe longer. So just getting this working a little bit more within the shape that I'm looking for, and then we can bridge it. This one already, bring this up a little bit and then delete the bottom faces. I'm going to combine the body with the foot. Then select the edges and bridge. I'll add one more segment. And I'll spend some time later on smoothing everything out. But I am liking the way that is looking. Typically on the inside of the foot, it does kind of curve in, and then on the outside, we can actually kind of make a little bit of a bow there as well. And I feel like maybe over here it's a little bit too exaggerated, so I just want a little bit of it, but not as much as what it is right now. So if we want to see this over on the other side, let's go into the front view here. We can delete half of him. And then I am going to use a mirror geometry. And I am going to mirror it across the Y on the world. And let's apply, oops, not Y, X. There we go. So we are mirroring the character over on the X. Let's push 3 to make sure that everything is, oops. Connected properly. And I don't see any weird seams, so it looks like everything is connected properly. So let's go back to 1 there. And that's starting to get us a lot closer to what the character is. I'm going to block in where the eyes are, the mouth is, and then add the fingers onto the character, and I think that's where I will end it. So that would be kind of the basic overall shape of everything. But the eyes, if we look at it, that is about correct where they would be. So I am going to use those two faces there. And basically all I'm going to do is extrude. And I'm going to keep faces together off. So when I extrude in right now, I create those eye sockets. I will actually rework this a little bit because I don't want the corners to come into a point there. So in order for this to work properly, I am going to extrude one more time. And then we can kind of remodel some of this. Actually, most of the loop. So I'm going to delete all of this here. And basically, we want a little tiny ridge here for the bridge of the nose on the character. And then we also want an edge loop to go around this whole section here. And then the nose will end off in somewhere around here. So in order to achieve that, we need to add more geometry. In order to do that, I'm going to do an insert edge loop tool. And we really only need to do half of the character with this edge loop tool. But I like to kind of do both halves. And the reason for that is that it actually allows me to choose which half ends up looking better. And I'll end up deleting the other half. So now that we have that, I'm going to bridge a few edges together here. And then I'm going to select both of these edges and both of these edges and bridge them. And then we have 2 segments that we need to connect to. So that's going to be the bridge of the nose area. Take both of those eye socket areas and we'll clear that out just by deleting them. Edit mesh, merge, do that on this side as well. And both of these end up being kind of a bit low. And looking at the character design that I have here, kind of where this is almost exactly where the nose should be, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if I'm going to use that exactly as a nose. I like the topology. I think I want to keep it a little bit of a ridge there, and then I'll add a little bit more topology down here for the actual nose. But that's going to be the bridge. Excuse me. I have a bit of a dry throat, and I thought I got some water. Nope, I drank it all. See, I have a tiny bit left. Okay, so if we look at the edge loops we have now, we should have this one that kind of looks like a mask that goes around everything. And then we should also have the individual eye loops there. Okay, my throat is super dry. I'm gonna go super quick, like 10 seconds to get some water. I'll be right back. That is much, much better. Okay, so I have the edge loops that I need there. I don't have quite all of the topology that I need to be able to shape the eyes the way I want it, so I need to add a couple more edge loops. So in order, what I'm going to do is do an edge loop here, and looking at that, that is not good where I want the eye topology to go all the way down the arm. That will not be useful for us. And let's see, where does this one go? Goes into the side of the leg. That's okay. I could deal with that. So that starts allowing us to be able to shape the eye once we have that. Quite a bit better. But to be as round as what I have in the concept art, I'm definitely going to need another point. But this is a good start. And then that's also going to create kind of the brow ridge area up here as well. And just pushing and pulling points, getting everything to be just right. I'm trying to get close to the point where it's starting to look pretty round. And I'd probably want to double check the scale and make sure that the scale of the eye, so we can see that the eye is a little bit low. Let's make it like this. There we go. So that is still too small for the eye. So I want the whole eye to be quite a bit larger. And now I want to figure out where I want this to route on this side for the eyes, because I do need that extra geometry there. So I know that it's going this way right now, and then it goes through the arm. Probably what I want it to actually do is go across the top and go back around the head. So let's get rid of these faces. Delete. Then I can maybe move this up a little bit. Take these two edges and extrude them down. And probably what I'll do is I'll do the edge loop now here so that I can connect it. And I can merge those points together. And then I'll need another edge loop on the back. And I'm working on all the details on that side, so it's messing up on this side, which is fine because I'm going to end up deleting that half anyways. And then let's merge this. There we go. Then coming across the top, I'll add a couple edges so that way it connects here. Then I'll do a bridge at the bottom there. So let's do a edge loop. And there we could see that it shot across the whole body as well. Let me delete half of the character right now. So that way we can get a little bit more control. It won't be perfect, but it's going to get us closer to what we want with less work. So if we delete that now, we know that it won't go across the whole body. It's just going to stop right there. Edge loop, edge loop. Now that we have that, we can start merging some points. So let's select the points here, and then we can merge, merge, and merge. So that starts connecting the arm back to the head. And like I said right here, we have a couple of areas where we can bridge. So we will bridge those. So we have that edge there, and then all we gotta do is add this little edge over here as well. So that is going to be an insert edge loop tool. And now that we have those edges, we can really start rounding this out. When we go into vertex, it's just going to be a little bit easier to select the specific vertices that I want to manipulate this way. I guess to make it round, they should be pretty evenly spaced out. That looks pretty round. Looks about right size for the eye, so that's great. Now, what I can do is mirror this over. And when I mirrored that over, it looks like we had some weirdness happening with the edge loop. Looks like maybe it merged something because it was really close to the edge. Or was it always like that? Let's undo the merge really quick and make sure. Nope, it wasn't like that, so let's mirror it. And then gonna make sure that the merge threshold is much lower. Let's put it at 0.5 maybe. That looks like it will at least prevent those edges from messing up. And let's push 3 to double check that there is no weird edges. So everything merged fine. We are getting kind of a sharper edge. It's going to be rounded out. It's just that we are working on the topology right now for the base of the mesh. Once we smooth these out a little bit more, it should look better. It looks like in the bottom here, we do have a little bit of an issue. Let's see if there we go. So we are missing some edges there, so it looks like I just deleted too much. So we can build these back in by doing a bridge. Bridge, edit mesh, bridge. And then just add one more division. And merge. Looks like when we do it this way, that may select the vertices and we'll merge them, just making sure that we only have the center row selected. And we can see that we get extras down here, but if we zoom in, we can deselect the edges that are not part of the center. And run a merge on that. Let's double check. Oops. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Let's kind of go in and spread out some of this topology so that's a little bit more balanced, and when we smooth it out, you can see that we got that ridge and get rid of that ridge where we don't want it. One of the tools that I like to use to do that is the Paint Geometry tool, the Sculpt tools. So I'm going to use the Relax tool. And if you push B, you can control the size of the brush. Let's see, by default it was really big. Maybe I want it a bit bigger than what I had there. Once I get down here. And with the Relax tool, the way it's different than the Smooth tool is that it tries to preserve volume. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And obviously, doing this, it's going to kind of mess up our center line that we had before, which will be a tiny bit of an issue, but we'll fix that. But it's going to give us a better overall spacing for our geometry, which is going to be good for us because we don't want a lot of tight geometry because then it's going to create those tight spots that we had. So if we look at it now in the smooth preview, you can see that it is much smoother now. Probably want to smooth it out even more. And in the end, we'll have to still push and pull some of the points ourselves because this tool is not a cure-all perfect solution. It's just a good way to kind of speed up the process so that way you don't have to do too much. You can see that overall it looks much better than it did a moment ago. Okay, so let's fix that center line, and I'm just going to look at both sides and see which side I like better, and I am thinking I like the left side better. So I'm going to delete the right side. And I am just going to double check that I'm not deleting an extra edge anywhere, that I just have the 1/2, which is perfect. Then here, I'm going to select the edge loop, and if we look at it from the front viewport, we can see kind of what I was saying, that we messed up our center line. But easy way to fix it is just scale it towards the center, and then I move it off and push X on the keyboard. That will give us our grid snap, and then we can grid snap it to the axis on the Y. And now we can go in and mirror the geometry. Whoa. It's, actually, I have not saved this whole time, and I do not want to lose all this. So I am going to save this. Cool, it is saved now. Let's delete all by type history. And then let's see if the mirror will work now. And I think it's not working because we were mirroring it in one direction and we need to mirror it in the opposite direction now. So I was doing it in X, and it's mirroring in the negative direction, but we can switch it to positive direction, and then that works fine. The issue that we have is the merge threshold. Let's put that at 0.5. And that looks a lot better. Let's make sure that the geometry didn't merge too much in the center because it gets kind of tight here. And then looking at the shape, I can, because when we look at it, it is kind of pointy in the front. But I'm going to add the mouth and things like that, but maybe I can just go in really quick and tweak a little bit so that it gets that rounder overall look. And then I'm gonna kind of tweak this a little bit so that we get the shape of the overall shape of the character. It's kind of a reverse teardrop where it's kind of like bigger at the top and then it comes pointier. A lot of this will be kind of filled in with fur, but we want to get the general shape there. You can see that is much closer to the shape than a perfect circle. Great, so looking at this section here is probably where my mouth needs to go. Let's line her up and see that the mouth is much wider. So we're going to add one more segment there. And that looks much better. So that is what I'm going to work with. That whole section there is going to be my character's mouth. And boom, just delete that. I'm also going to add another insert edge loop over here on the edge. So that's going to be kind of like the corner of the mouth. And then I'm going to have to clean up a little bit more of the face so that it's not completely connected with the where the arm is bending here so that we can get good blend shapes on the face. So we're going to have to add a little bit more geometry around the face and in between here so that it works properly. Insert edge loop tool. There we go. And then I'm just going to start pulling points now. And I am just going to do one side, but I want to create kind of the overall shape that I need, and then I'm going to delete the other half and mirror it over. And sometimes it's easier to kind of tell what you need in an orthographic rather than a perspective view. So don't be shy. You can actually change the viewport where you're looking at it from. And that looks quite a bit better. Yep. and looking kind of like the shape that I want. It's going to be a bit higher. Look at it in wireframe. I want the edge almost to be at the bottom here. So that's going to be kind of like the muzzle part, like right underneath the nose all the way through to the kind of right above the chin. So the nose is super tiny on this character, so this needs to go up way higher. Kind of like there. Oops, wrong point. That looks great, so I am going to delete the other half. And let's mirror. I gotta go into the option box and do negative mirror, and I'm going to bring the merge threshold to 0.5. That should fix all of our issues. There we go. And then with this character, I feel that it's going to be like quite a bit of an overbite, especially as it comes like up here. And then a little bit flatter on the top section. So right now, this mouth is coming out, protruding quite a bit. Let's look at it from the side viewport. And I am just going to take these points and kind of pull them in a little bit. So that way we get the silhouette the way we need it to be. We can see that we're starting to get a bit of an overbite there. And by the time we have the whole mouth, it'll be like way over here. And then this one will just come down to this point here. So let's select this whole edge loop here. I'm going to extrude. And with extrusion, I'm just going to kind of scale it down and scale it in a little bit. And that starts creating the edge loops that we can see for the face. So we have the face, and then will be the loop for the mouth and things like that. But this is kind of a good start. For that, like I said, I do want the top, it's coming down in the angle that I want it, where it's just kind of coming straight down. On the bottom lip is not coming in the angle that I want it to yet. So with the bottom lip, I'm gonna take all of these and push it out. Maybe rotate it a little bit like that. And I'm going to grow the selection really quick. So that I can get a bit more of the lower lip. I feel like this top row here, I want it a little bit wider. And I think overall this whole bottom lip, I don't want it to be as rounded. I want the character to have a little bit kind of more of a flat face, flatter, wider face. Maybe take these edges, rotate them in a little bit. So I'm feeling that's looking quite good for right now, for the blocking stage. Let's get the hands blocked in, and then we'll leave it there, and we'll kind of add more detail in a future lesson because it's getting quite late. So let's do insert Edgeloop tool. There and there. And we can start shaping the hand. It's gonna kind of be the palm, so it comes in that way. And then I want to leave room for the fingers to come out. I've designed it so where it has 2 fingers and a thumb. The idea for that is just that it's going to make it quicker and easier to animate. So I like that idea. I'm going to push in the palm a little bit and then aim it more towards the pinky side. It kind of curves out that way. And it should give it a big pad for the thumb to come through. Let's do the 2 fingers really quick. Just going to do a extrude, keep faces together off, and then we can pull out the fingers like that and figure out kind of as big as the fingers that I want. And eventually I'm going to add a little bit, just like with the legs where there is a bit of a space in between the legs. I'm going to eventually add some more space between the fingers here as well. But I think for right now it is just good enough that we have the separate fingers together. And I want the index finger to be much bigger than the pinky. I'm thinking that maybe that is enough. I'm going to do an edge loop really quick. So that we can see where the knuckles are. And then we need to figure out the thumb. And a common mistake is that a lot of people kind of make the thumb coming out kind of right here. But if you look at it, it kind of comes out from a little bit lower and off to the side, and it comes out at an angle. So I'm actually going to take this face here and tweak it a little bit. So that's where my thumb is actually going to come out of. And then I am going to extrude. Extrude one more time. And I think that is looking okay for right now for the thumb. My thumbs in the design are quite a bit smaller, so maybe I can make it a little bit smaller. So let's mirror this over. Mirror. Bring the merge threshold down to 0.5. That is looking pretty cool. Obviously still needs a lot more work. But that is starting to get there. Maybe there's things like the actual eyeballs, the nose, the teeth, the brows, and the bow that need to be blocked in and things like that. But the overall body shape is there. So I am going to end it here. And in the next video where I'm working on this character, let's save this so that I don't lose it. There we go. It is saved. So For the next video, when I'm working on this character, I'll go in and start adding a lot more of the details and kind of flesh out making sure that all the proportions are correct and that we get the topology working exactly the way we want, because there's some weird topology going on right now that we're going to need to tweak in order for this character to work in animation, which eventually I do want to be able to animate this character. So I need to make sure that the topology is spot on for that. All right, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, liked it, please like, share, and subscribe. If you find it useful, let me know. And other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.